お許しください。
And the clothes Erika was wearing were Jessica's old formal attire. And though the gifts possessed a dignity that would put many adults to shame, her body was still physically similar to a middle schooler's. And Jessica's old clothes fit her perfectly.
いいえ、お客様にふさわしい身なりでしたよ。もし彼女が気に入るようでしたら、お近づきの印にプレゼントしても良いでしょう。
かしこまりました。ありがとうございます。
警察やご家族には連絡しましたか？
はい。先方も大層ご心配なされていたようでした。
ところで、客人は本当に事故でしょうね。
ご本人は寄港中のボートから転落したとおっしゃっております。
裏付けはありますか？
海保に問い合わせて確認しました。プレジャーボートの後部から転落したそうで、他の乗員たちは気づかなかったようです。実際の転落地点は分かりませんが、おそらくはここの近海でしょう。
この悪天候に船遊びなど愚かなことです。しかし近海で溺れてこの島に漂着することは考えられるのですか？
ありえないことではありません。この辺りの島には大抵漂流民が流れ着いた伝承がございます。おそらく事故は真実ではないかと。この台風です。島のどこであろうとも船での接岸は不可能です。
Genji had already figured it out. Natsuo almost certainly suspected that this mysterious guest, who had arrived during their already high-stress family conference, might be a pawn in someone's plot. And therefore, Genji had already checked to make sure that the accident was real, that Furudo Erika was her real name, and that there was nothing suspicious going on.
わかりました。主人も丁重にもてなすようにと指示しています。
Now,
粗相のないようになさい。ですが、わかっていますね。
took the words out of my mouth.
はい。親族会議には一切近づけません。夕食後はゲストハウスへお引き取り願います。
客人をお父様に挨拶させろというような流れにもならないよう、よく注意するのですよ。
もちろんです。心得ております。
ほう、フルドエリカとな。この六軒島に来客とは珍しい。楽しませてくれそうではないか。
ベルンカステル教の駒でしょう。人間のルールに従うとはいえ、プレイヤーは魔女です。侮ることはできませんよ。
問題ない。仮にベルンカステル教本人であろうとも、人間である以上、わらわたちの敵ではない。何しろガープもいる。人間はガープに絶対に勝てぬ。
ありがとう。でも買いかぶりすぎは良くないわ。魔女の定義は魔法が使えることだけを意味したりはしない。
ですな。ジョーカーであり、台風の目である。それが魔女というもの。
この六軒島で魔女と名乗ってよいのはこのわらわ。黄金の魔女にして無限の魔女ベアトリーチェのみである。ベルンカステル教名、エンジェの次なるコマがどの程度のものか、じっくりと観覧させてもらおうぞ。
Erika's seat was the lowest in rank. In other words, he was at the inferior end of the table. since Kizo's seat at the high end of the table was empty. If you turn the whole thing around, it sort of looked like Erika was the host of this diner. Oh boy, foreshadowing. I mean, you should definitely try some of this delicious cake, Miss Furudo. It is exquisite.
それでは皆様、本日の晩餐を始めさせていただきたいと思います。
After Goda's announcement, dinner began with the almost customary applause. It was finally the beginning of the dinner orchestra conducted by Toshiro Goda. Sitting at such a majestic dinner table was no everyday thing for these people by any means, except for those in Krause's immediate family. However, they were all used to it and acted as though this was completely normal. Again, if anyone was to be surprised, it should have been Erika. And yet, she showed no surprise at this dinner, and acted with composure, blending in with everyone else. There wasn't even a sliver of the fear one might expect from someone who had wandered here like a lost puppy.
不思議な子ですね。後ろ宮家の1年間で最も豪華な晩餐を前に何も取り乱さないとは。
最近の子は肝が据わってるわ。嫌いじゃないわ、そういうの。
フルドさんはこういう食事には慣れているのですか。大した落ち着きようだ。
ほんまやな。ずいぶん手慣れたもんや。わしなんかいまだに次はどのフォークを使えばいいんか混乱するんやで。ああ、こっちやったか、それともこっちやったか。
Oh, Hideyoshi. You surely know how to brighten our days, even with the storm outside. But, yeah. I for one find it no surprise that for someone as poised as Miss Furudo here knows her way around utensils. Erika had been gracefully eating her hors d'oeuvre without showing any confusion over the lines of utensils in front of her. Hideyoshi started joking around with her, gripping a fork in each hand. Of course, a president of a company in the food service industry like Hideyoshi would obviously know his table manners. However, thinking that Erika must be nervous over this dinner, he had intentionally spoken with a comic tone of voice.
外側から順に使うだけですし、面倒だったらお箸を頼めばいいんです。
How about that, Hideyoshi?
日本人ならお箸です。お箸はいいですよ。これ一膳あればどんな料理でも対処できます。
As soon as she began talking about chopsticks, her eyes started glittering. Eh? The smile she now showed for the first time was far different from the dignity she had shown before, and more like something you expect from someone her age.
カレーライスはさすがにスプーンでしょ。
丼に盛ればいいんです。
Pour it into a bowl donburi style? Donburi is simply food served on top of rice in a deep bowl. The bowl is also called donburi, hence the name. Many types of food can be served donburi style, including curry, beef, or chicken and egg. I see.
牛丼スプーンで食べる人いますか？いませんよね。日本人なら断じて絶対鉄頭鉄尾お箸です。というわけでゴーダさん、すみませんがお箸をお願いします。
You surely must love using chopsticks a lot by the looks of it. Oh, you know what? I do have to agree with Miss Furudo over here. Why do we have to always try so hard? Why not try and use chopsticks instead? honor the roots of the old Japanese. Goda, bring us chopsticks. ASAPPASA.
私が日本人として恥ずかしくない食べ方をご覧に入れてみせましょう。ところで、次のお料理は何ですか？
それが困ったことに、次はスープでございまして。
As she pretended to shrug, Erika winked at everyone. Poised, but also lighthearted. Of course, no one was laughing at her. She obviously knew that soup came after her hors d'oeuvre in a full-course meal. In hors d'oeuvre. Furthermore, Erika had even noticed that she had performed the lute too perfectly, creating a sense of tension that led Hideyoshi to think that she was nervous herself, and that this was why he had tried to break the ice. And that was why she started behaving a little childish and lighthearted, acting out the part of a guest enjoying a harmonious dinner. Pretty soon, not only Kirie, but anyone else also caught on. Even though she was an uninvited guest, she was apparently worthy of participating in the Noshirumiya family do.
頭のいい子ね。本当にこの子、偶然の来客なの？実は、今日の親族会議にこっそり呼んだ兄さんの隠し子じゃないの？
My bad. Didn't swallow correctly.
賢く場を和ますセンスもあるようだ。マナーも見事じゃないか。あんな子が娘だったら悪くはないね。
それはひでえぜ。ジェシカちゃんの達成がなくならな。
ひどいわ、ルドルフ兄さん。
どうしたんだい、ジェシカちゃん。頭痛かい？
私の評価がずんずん下がってる気がするぜ。
こりゃ本家の令嬢として負けられねえだろ。お前も日頃夏日おばさんに仕込まれてるテーブルマナーと貫禄で対抗してみろよ。
見たい見たい。テーブルマナー見たい。
ほら、はしゃぐのはマナー違反だよ。ささ、ジェシカちゃん、お手本を見せてあげて。
もちろんだぜ。
Jessica straightened up so much, it looked like someone had poked her in the back with a pole. She had good posture, but it somehow lacked elegance. She looked, well, kind of like a triangle ruler. She set that attention with her gaze fixed straight ahead, tried to bring her food to her mouth despite this, and failed miserably. Dad, who was sitting next to her, suddenly realized that something was up.
どうしたんだ、ジェシカちゃん。腹でも痛えのか？
Jessica turned bright red. Sorry, I cannot help myself. I guess so. She could definitely use some chopsticks. We left our heads off. Jessica protested, still bright red. Our Nazi scolded us for not behaving ourselves. In the end, no matter how much we tried to smooth it over, we were who we were. We couldn't act like we were anything else. Still, that laughter really did help us to relax. We had been so concerned about the guests getting nervous that we had grown even more nervous ourselves. The lively chatter spread from where we were sitting at the center of the long table to both ends, and ultimately, the dinner went even more smoothly than usual. With some delicious cheese and coffee, our peaceful meal came to an end. Goda won anonymous acclaim and was praised for his skill by all present. After a short period of harmony following the meal, it was decided that we would return to guest house. Normally, dinner tended to have a very dark atmosphere about it, and the adults would often move right on to the family conference with the same dark atmosphere. However, perhaps because this year's dinner had been oddly peaceful, everyone decided to take a break, the adults included. After eating, taking a bath, and relaxing while watching TV, I wonder if they'll gather again in the mansion in the middle of all this rain, and resume their high-tension family conference. I'd rather not think about that. Auntie Eva seemed to get very worked up trying to convince the rest to start the family conference right away, but it didn't look like many people agreed with her. The meeting had probably come to a close for the night. Since they had guest house duty, Koda-san and Kumasawa-san were chosen to guide us to the guest house. It must be tough for Koda-san. Even after making and cleaning up such an extravagant dinner, he also has the midnight shift at the guest house. I heard that Kumasawa-san, old as she was, would be going to sleep soon. It seemed that she had been assigned the servants' quarters in the guest house.
皆様をゲストハウスまでご案内させていただきます。エリカ様のお部屋もご用意できております。
ありがとうございます。
体調はどうです？具合が悪かったりはしませんか？
ああ、そうだよな。すっかり忘れてたけど、エリカちゃんは溺れてて流れ着いたんだよな。今日は無理しねえで、早く寝た方がいいだろうな。
全然平気です。それよりも緊張と興奮でむしろ寝つけないくらいです。じゃあ遊ぼう。みんなで遊ぼう。トランプしよう。
Maria lashed onto her, giggling. This lack of restraint particular to you was very much like Maria. But for now, we really should be thinking about Erika's physical condition.
マリア、トランプは私たちと一緒に遊ぼう。エリカお姉ちゃんは疲れてるんだってさ。
トランプも好きですよ。一息つきましたら、ぜひご一緒させてください。
Yeah. Sounds nice. I am totally down for us to play together. Maybe some shiritori, maybe some shogi, or chess. Someone like you, I am sure, must know to play chess like masterfully. Playing chess with you would be great. I cannot wait. May the best player win in that case. Handshake, handshake.
あれはどちら様ですか？
As she passed through the lobby of the entrance hall, Erika stopped walking. When we saw what she was looking at, the rest of us also stopped.
ああ、あちらは黄金の魔女ベアトリーチェ様でございますよ。
黄金の魔女。
Beatrice. Quite a mysterious figure. A very interesting one in my eyes.
何やってんだガキども。さっさとゲストハウスへ引き上げるぞ。
Dad, Kirie-san, Auntie Eva, Uncle Higurashi, and Auntie Rosa all came over. The guest house party had all gathered. However, Erika's gaze was captured by the portrait of the witch, and she simply stared at it for a while.
Ah. 親父は200億相当の黄金を隠し持っていて、その隠し場所をあの碑文に記したって言われてる。
Perhaps because it was too early for them all to disperse into their individual rooms. The relatives who had returned to the guest house were all gathered downstairs, continuing their chat. The topic was the witch's epitaph, which Erika had taken an interest in.
魅力的な謎ですね。誰にでも見られるところに堂々と張り出し、私たちの知恵に挑戦する。そういう挑戦大好きです。
ひゅー、エリカちゃんは案外ノリがいいな。謎解きとか好きなのか？
面白そうじゃないですか。そういう挑戦、多分金蔵さんはあの碑文によって跡継ぎを選ぼうというつもりに違いありませんね。
When she said that, the adults froze and slowly turned to face Erika. Well, it is interesting that you seem to have already had that in mind. I mean, something like that can easily be deduced, given that it talks about giving treasures, like including gold, to those who solve the puzzle, so yeah, it would reach that conclusion.
どうしてそう思うの?
Ontieva spoke with a coaxing voice. Though there had been whispering between the relatives every now and then that the person who solved the epitaph's riddle might inherit the family headship. That had been nothing more than a wishful thinking, since such a thing had never been specifically stated. And yet, though she had only read it once, this outsider had already reached that conclusion. How had she come to it? No, that wasn't the problem. If you solve the epitaph, you can become the next head. She wanted to establish this not as wishful thinking, but an outright fact. So they closed in around Erika, asking why she was so sure.
大富豪が謎を解いた者に富を譲るというのは割とよくあるシチュエーションです。そしてご当主の金蔵さんはその碑文を新聞に載せたのではなく、お屋敷の中に掲示しました。つまりこのお屋敷の人間を対象にした謎だということです。
そうだよな。この屋敷の中である以上、この屋敷に出入りできない者には解きようがない。つまりこの屋敷の人間にじい様は挑戦してきたってわけだ。
グッド、良い思考です。
Quite good indeed. Quite outstanding that you also mentioned how you never saw Kinzo's epitaph published in a newspaper. Either you are an avid reader of newspapers who never heard of such a thing as Kinzo publishing this, or you somehow knew beforehand about Kinzo and his gold, and deduced that he would never publish it to begin with.
あの碑文が屋敷内にあったという一時からでも、その程度のことを読み取ることが可能です。
At first, this Furudo Erika girl had seemed to be the fairly silent type. But apparently, that wasn't the case. When she grew excited about being challenged to a game of wits, she became much more talkative than I had imagined.
なるほどな。屋敷の中に碑文があるんは、屋敷の人間に読ませるためってのは確かに道理や。
でも家督を譲る相手までも選ぶというのは言い切れるものなの？
この謎を解いて得られる宝がほんのささやかなものでしかないなら、私もそこまでは思いません。
そうよね。隠された黄金の価値は200億。それはまさに後宮家の財産そのものだわ。
それを受け継ぐということは、後宮家を引き継ぐことと限りなく同じ意味です。つまり碑文に込めた黄金の隠し場所という謎は、後宮家の実質的な後継者選びに他ならないということです。
The idea that the person who sold the epitaph would be chosen as the next head was something that had been floating around between a few of the relatives for a while now. However, since it had never been stated specifically, they had thought of it as nothing more than an optimistic dream. And so they had abandoned all consideration of that aspect, and left it as a grey area. Erika had declared in clear terms that this uncertain part was, in fact, true. If one of the relatives had said it, the others would have thought it to be merely an optimistic dream. However, when declared by Furudo Erika, a complete outsider, those words seemed more credible than they otherwise would have. Everyone remained silent for a while, slowly considering what those words implied.
ただ碑文がそこに存在するだけで、フルドエリカはこの程度の推理が可能です。いかがでしょうか、皆様方。
Credible, yes. But I wouldn't place my faith on it being 100% fact, in my eyes. It doesn't just refer to gold, but also other treasures that are mentioned at the end here in the epitaph. Like the resurrection of the dead souls, the resurrection of the loved ones, the peaceful sleep of the rich. I mean, what do you think about those? Cause if this was just about gold, I can see it. But with those treasures at the end, it kinda makes you question the intention behind the one who made the epitaph in the first place.
横やりで申し訳ねえけどさ、一応はうちの父さんが次期当主なわけだぜ。隠し黄金を誰が見つける云々はともかくよ、見つけたら当主ってのはそういうことにはならねえんじゃねえかよ。
Jessica thought the treasure hunting part of the epitaph was really fun. However, she couldn't help but let her expression grow bitter once they started talking about undermining her father's position.
私の推理から演繹する限り、金蔵さんは次期当主のクラウスさんに円滑な当主継承を望んでいないと考えられます。
どうしてだよ。
莫大な財産を持つ後ろ宮家の当主なら、政治的な意味で様々な影響力を持つことになるでしょう。ならば本来その継承は厳格であり、一切の紛れが入るべきではありません。
And you're saying that the epitaph itself is the element of doubt, don't you? Since the epitaph was made, you're saying that Kraus was not viewed as fit to be the head of the family. Cause if he were, the epitaph would not exist to begin with.
そうね。うちの人の好きな戦国武将の話でもよくあるわ。後継ぎ候補が複数いたりすると、大抵お家騒動の火種になる。
そやな。だからトラブルを未然に防ぐためにしっかりと後継者を指名しておくのが大切なんや。時には競合する後継者を粛清することさえあるんやで。
Even the Sengoku commander Hideyoshi admired. Toyotomi Hideyoshi made his son-in-law Hidetsugu commit seppuku. But it was rumored that he might have done this to make Hideyori, who was his real son and born after Hidetsugu, his true heir. In other words, naming a successor was a way to make it known to the world that a given single, unique person would be acknowledged by everyone as the successor, and a way to remove any chance of another person becoming an opposing candidate.
グッド。まさにその通りです。あのような碑文の存在は、クラウスさんの次期当主の肩書きを危ぶませる意味しかありません。つまり、金蔵さんがクラウスさんに当主を円満に継承させたいと願うなら、あのような危険なものをわざわざ人目にさらす理由がないわけです。
そうね。チェス盤をひっくり返せば確かにそう言える。当主は継承するけれども200億の黄金は譲らない。解けた誰かに譲るというのはおかしな話だわ。
giving up the title of head, but only giving the 20 billion yen in gold to the person who sold the epitaph. You really can't call that passing on the headship in the truest sense.
そういうことです。以上の推理により、金蔵さんがクラウスさんを本当に後継者だと認めていたか怪しむことができるわけです。ただ碑文がそこに存在するだけで、古田エリカはこの程度の推理が可能です。
Does sound logical. I have no argument against it.
いかがでしょうか、ジェシカさん。
なんだよそれ。何が推理だ。デタラメだ。こじつけだ。
Jessica let her emotions lay bare and glared at Erika. Erika, on the other hand, looked exceedingly calm with an expression that said, "The truth is the truth." I see. It looks like the table manners aren't the only way this Erika girl is fitting for the Ushirumiya family. It seems she really is like the family, even in ways that it would have been better if she wasn't. Indeed. Now her true self is starting to show up, slowly but surely. Oh, it is no surprise to me.
May the best player win, as he said. Bonehead.
Ma, 落ち着けよ、ジェシカ。エリカもそれくらいにしろって。
まあその後継者云々の話は置いといてもやな。いずれにせよお父さんからのビッグクエスチョンやというのは間違いないやろな。200億やで。マリアちゃん、もし見つけたら何に使う？
おお、黄金鏡は黄金だけじゃない。もっと神聖な場所なの。
Uncle Hideyoshi persisted with his fake laughter, attempting to force the mood to improve. Everyone else tried to go along with him, but Jessica's mood didn't get any better.
エリカちゃんも碑文の謎に挑戦してみたくなったのかい？
はい、灰色の脳細胞がうずきまくりです。ですので謎解きを早速始めたいと思います。
Georgianiki skillfully turned the conversation around. Just like the time she had made everyone laugh in the dining hall, Erika looked about with gleeful eyes and jumped at the chance.
気に入ったわ。せっかくエリカちゃんが面白がってくれてるんだし、また去年みたいにみんなで謎解きをしてみましょうよ。
私コーヒー入れるわ。欲しい人は手を挙げて。マリアはダメよ。眠れなくなっちゃうでしょ。マ
リアもブラック飲む。ワクワクしません？こういう謎、私は大好きです。
Erika said that and smiled. Even though she must have known that she'd ticked Jessica off and made the atmosphere sour, she just smiled nonchalantly. I mean, she basically pried into family business, even though she's a stranger. She made Jessica angry, and no fucks were given. Woven like a quilt. I mean, it is no surprise to me, but well, I mean, it is interesting.
別に10月5日の事件を待たなくても解ける謎はあるってわけ。
そりゃ俺も何度か挑んださ。だが
でもさっぱりわからなかったから投げ出して考えるのをやめたでしょ。
Yeah, it pissed me off, but I didn't have a good counter for that. After all, I don't get the epitaph at all. I don't even know what the beloved home of all means, much less the parts about the Swiftfish River and the key. Thinking that a few more hints would show up if I waited, I kept on waiting and just stopped thinking. Yeah, that can happen. Like, when it comes to the epitaph, I have focused on it for a while in the past, and I do believe that I have reached some answer to that. What with Killian and Lord Yu. Even if it feels like there's still more afterwards, so, yeah. Like, after that, I left it behind because I thought that solving it, to me, it was no longer a huge priority anymore. Like, I want to know why it is important to Beatrice, and I want Balder to solve it. But, you know, I guess if I am to continue where I left off, the only thing that came to mind was, like after I watched a bunch of Indiana Jones movies on television, and I thought to myself, what if those sentences on the door to the chapel has, like, letters that can be moved? You rearrange the letters so that it shows Lord Yu, like, maybe even put the key, like the chapel key, inside the door, and then boom, a passageway is open to the underground. And we find the gold, like the location of the gold there, or something like that. It's kind of like those kinds of tombs that you see in movies and shows, where the protagonist has to solve some puzzle in order to go forward, and they have to push like random buttons and then and then stones just rearrange themselves and just opens a new path or something like that. It kind of makes me think of that. Now, there is argument of Nox's commandments not allowing hidden passageways, but, you know, like, it's not like red truths have been mentioned that a hidden passageway does not exist on the island, at least until now. And even so, like, the Nox commandments, they are used for murder setups, not treasure hunts, so there can be an argument made for that. Like, I guess it depends on the way the red truth is phrased, if they're gonna phrase that red truth. Like, depending on the nuance of the sentence of here, I'm definitely gonna notice. Like, whether it's gonna be referring to the murder mystery itself, or in general. I will notice that once the red truth is gonna drop. So, yeah, moving that aside, I can argue that I have some solution here, or like have to continue the epitaph some more in the way that I thought of before, but in my eyes, I don't think that this is it. I don't think that solving the way I did is the key to what Beatrice originally intended with it. And if I am to solve it, I have to solve it in a completely new way. Not saying that the way I solved, like, the way I've been thinking of the epitaph before is wrong. It could be that that is a way of doing the puzzle, of doing the riddle and such. It's just that there is a secret, separate way of solving the epitaph that Beatrice wants me to do as well. There are two ways of solving the epitaph. And if I'm to be satisfied with solving the epitaph, I need to solve both, not the first way that I've been thinking up till now.
あなたなりの答えは準備できてる？私が今から解いちゃうから。
何？
What?
ペルンはね、ここで碑文の謎を解いちゃったのよ。さすが奇跡の魔女ね。解ける謎であるならば、難易度に関係なく必ず解ける。今度は解くのに何年かけたの？失敬ね。かけらをほんの数百個ほど漁っただけじゃない。やっぱり恐ろしいわ、あんたは。
Hey, I mean, if you have found the answer by googling the solution on the internet, that is very cheap coming from you. That is very cheap for you to Google the solution.
それは赤で答えをいきなり語るとか、そういうインチキじゃねえんだろうな。
Yeah.
安心なさい。あなたと同じプレイヤーとしてのルールにのっとってよ。じゃあ始めようかしら。ここじゃ狭いわ。海の上で話しましょう。
オッケー。酔わないでね、バトラー。
海って何の話だ？
You mean fall? Or Chiru?
Whoa!
Right after I thought the world had turned pitch black, I was struck by a strange floating sensation.